police came zooming into the park with guns out, and they said, "What are you boys doing?" "We're breathing and stretching, officer. Please don't shoot." It was so weird. The neighbors thought we were worshiping the devil.
For me, yoga and Bitcoin, they've got so many similarities when it comes down to mindset.
The best of all teachers create students that don't need them anymore. That's empowering the student rather than codependency.
It just comes down exactly to the fundamental of Bitcoin that is about owning your own assets because you don't need to trust the system.
Let's talk about yoga postures like currency, like money. In the beginning of yoga practice, we do yoga and we start achieving a posture. We can stand on our hands, we can bind our hands, we can put a leg here. We put that in an asana bank account and we keep piling those asanas into a bank account, and we look in there and we're like, whoa, cool. I've got all these yoga postures, but that person has more yoga postures than me. I need what they have. They must be happier. I need more. And we keep going through that. But the day I got through, then you start questioning, well, now what? They realize, well, that stuff didn't make me happy. I recently wrote a book called Only Dead Fish Go With the Flow. Yoga means we try really hard, and a salmon cannot say just go with the flow, has to swim upstream.
When we think about crypto or Bitcoin, there are periods of high volatility where your Bitcoin goes down 30%. So you need to work through it.
Drishti means that we can become like the eye of a hurricane. There can be chaos and madness around us, and we're like this. You have to remain calm.
(2025) was a great year for crypto. Bitcoin institutional adoption and also a regulation being more positive and supportive for the whole industry. Now, we ended a year where a little bit more volatility and uncertainty, and 2026 is going to test your mental volatility. Most investors, they lose money not because they do the wrong investment or they are not doing enough research, but because of their emotion. There is burnout, there is fear, then there is panic selling, there is also quite important a lack of focus, and all of these things are silent killers of wealth. That's why I decided to do something quite different on our channel. So we are launching the Sovereign Practice series, and today I sat down with David Swensen. Well, many of you in the yoga space probably know him, but if you don't, he is not just a yoga master. He is a master of discipline and resilience. I had the pleasure to train with him in Ashtanga. He has been training since he was a teenager. He was part of the first teachers that brought Ashtanga yoga to the US. And today we are going to discuss the protocols to keep your nervous system calm when the market is chaotic. But not only, how can you stay focused? How can you develop that concentration and discipline that is so important, not just in the yoga practice, but in trading, in investing, in all your daily life. Yoga has been my medicine for over a decade. And because I think it can be very beneficial for all my crypto and investment community, I decided to bring this experience to you and also bring some amazing guests on the channel that can share their wisdom as well. So this video is not about stretching. It's a bit of yoga, but we go beyond. It's wisdom of life, freedom, and power. Welcome to the Sovereign Practice. Let's dive in. Hi, David. How are you?
Hi, Stefania. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm so happy to have you on the show for this new series that I'm launching on my channel. You know, it's a crypto channel. We talk about Bitcoin, right?
Well, I'll tell you this. I know, and you're calling this bit of yoga, I think, right? So
Yeah.
I can tell you that I know a bit about yoga, but I know nothing about Bitcoin or crypto. So Should be fun.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, for me, yoga and actually crypto, Bitcoin, say they've got so many similarities when it comes down to mindset. And I really wanted to kind of bring you on the show to actually unpack all of that. You have got some amazing wisdom through your careers. So let's get started, right? You have practiced and taught Ashtanga for decades, right?
Yeah.
Tell me what originally drew you to yoga and to start this path that, like you said, when we had our training, is actually a journey. It's not like a 30-day challenge, right?
That's right. I joke that, a lot of yoga studios have the 30-day challenge, but the real yoga challenge is 30-year challenge, right, to see. So just giving a little history or background to get a sense of what yoga was like when I started, which was 1969, living in Texas. And you can imagine in 1969, people weren't doing yoga. It was not a thing. But my older brother, his name is Doug. I also have an older sister. My sister's 8 years older. My brother is 5 years older than me. He got into yoga and surfing and stuff like that just by luck or karma or fate. My big brother is doing healthy stuff, so I started doing those things. I was growing my hair long, and we would do yoga in the park at the end of our street on a bed sheet, because there was no such thing as yoga clothes or yoga mats. There was nothing. You could just find a book on yoga and do some yoga. Well, we were doing that under a tree, and the neighbors called the police, and police came zooming into the park with guns out, and they said, "What are you boys doing?" "We're breathing and stretching, officer. Please don't shoot." It was so weird. The neighbors thought we were worshiping the devil because they saw us scantily clad, long hair, under trees, doing this kind of thing. So that was the environment I was doing yoga. So it certainly wasn't something that was popular, but what pulled me into it is how I felt after doing it. Something felt good. From there, we got more books on yoga, and I was in Southern California, and I went to an Ashtanga yoga class, which, for those of you that aren't familiar, it's a very dynamic system where there's breathing aligned with movement. If you can imagine Tai Chi with special breathing and a little more dynamic, and I saw this, and it just was like, wow, blew my mind. I felt an energy in my body, and I just wanted more. And so I always tell people that if you enjoy doing something, it's not even a discipline. You just want to do it. So I can't say I was a disciplined person. I just did things I loved. So I was surfing and doing this yoga, and it brought me back to the mat, because I was like, feels great. And the people that were doing it and my teachers, they were fun. And so that was my initial exposure to yoga. Now, the thing that keeps people doing it is they feel good.
Yeah.
So in essence, that's the story.
It's interesting because Ashtanga yoga specifically is a very rigid kind of like practice. There is a structure, there is a focus. It's not kind of like a vinyasa class, and it's quite, strong, and it's not an easy practice. I mean, you practice for an hour and a half, and you feel it, your body feel it. But it kind of develop, I don't want to say an addiction, but in a way, people keep coming back. And so you think that this coming back is the feeling of relief that you get, is kind of like maybe the mindset that you develop. What is the secret that get people coming back to the mat?
I don't ever try to get someone to do anything.
Yeah.
My goal is just to present the yoga in a fashion that someone understands how to use the tool. Because I know that's all I need to do. You will develop a relationship of your own with this yoga, and then it feels good. Imagine I teach you how to make orange juice. You don't have to understand what happens when you drink the orange juice, the peristaltic action in the intestines, how the cellulose is doing this, and the energy of the juice is passing through the intestinal wall into your bloodstream and forming into... You don't have to know any of that. You just know, when I drink orange juice, it feels good. So all I do is teach someone how to use something, and then they like it, they keep doing it. Or they don't, they do something else. And so I look at it like that. And you're right, people have been doing this for decades because they get a good feeling from it.
This episode is supported by Hive Digital Technologies, a company building the infrastructure of the future at the intersection of Bitcoin and AI. 2025 has been a pivotal year for Hive, with a significant hash rate expansion, the development of one of Latin America's largest AI data center projects in Paraguay, and the rollout of sovereign AI solutions across Canada and Europe, all powered exclusively by green energy. To learn more, visit hivedigitaltechnologies.com. If you are finding this conversation valuable, take a moment to subscribe to the Financial Fox YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and please share the content. Your support is so important, it's going to help us to grow the channel and continue educating more people about crypto. Now, back to the discussion. Yeah, I think there is the element of empowerment, and because I want to bring it back to Bitcoin in a way. But there is empowerment and there is understanding of your body. There is training of your mind. It's an element of like awareness and consciousness, but really empowerment. Actually yoga empower your body, empower your mind. You discover so many things on the mat.
I'll tell you what I think is empowering about it. And I'll say this from the standpoint of a teacher. A good teacher creates thinking students. The best of all teachers create students that don't need them anymore. That's empowering the student. Rather than to present the knowledge or the information or the yoga in such a way that there's a codependency, that the practitioner or student, they don't have a mind of their own. They're trained to just be instructed by this teacher that is the wise one, that they can't make a choice on their own. No, that's not real teaching. Real teaching gets someone to think, and then once they think, they figure it out on their own. And I may not be saying this story right, but the essence is there. It might have been Pythagoras, the great Greek mathematician. Instead of explaining a mathematical idea, he would ask questions to the students. By asking the right questions, they would have to think and they would come up with the answer rather than a teacher just telling you the answer. The teacher asks the questions in such a way that the student has to think about it, percolate, and they come up with the answer.
There is the element of ownership as well, exactly just what you said. I mean, gosh, it just comes down exactly to the fundamental of Bitcoin that is about owning your own assets, owning your own money, is about empowerment because you don't need to trust the system, right? The system with inflation and debasement and all of that. The power of the money is keep losing, right? So what you have today in the bank is not what you're going to have tomorrow. So, I mean, it was great that actually Satoshi came up with Bitcoin. There was actually the solution that is completely uncorrelated to this system that is actually going to make you poorer over time. So you own these assets, Bitcoin, that has been performing for the last, over 15 years. It's been the best performing asset. So that's why, I see there are so many parallels. So we talk about ownership, like you as an individual are going to own whatever is going to be the answer that you are going to bring to the world, what you are developing. There is an element of empowerment. Okay, so the empowerment is very interesting because not all the bodies are the same. And I want to mention that because there is struggle as well in Ashtanga. I mean, I can tell from my personal practice where I still working through handstand, that I'm still working through the jump through and try to do everything, correctly by the manual. It's not easy, right? Your body has got a limitation and has got as well a journey, and some bodies are flexible than others, some other are more strong, and strength sometimes is good. So what I just want to go back is this element of struggle that you need to face, and this is also in a way also coming back when we think about crypto or Bitcoin. There are periods of high volatility where your Bitcoin goes down 30%. So you need to work through it. So tell me maybe from your perspective about how have you been approaching and how do you advise people to approach this element of struggle in the practice?
I see the similarities, but there are some things that are a little different, right? Because in Bitcoin, you have a number. And you're going to watch that number. That number goes up 30% or down 30%. And this means this is your assets, right? If we're talking about yoga and defining what is success or progress, and you mentioned, well, there's all these struggles. And this is one mistaken idea about the yoga in general is we use a measuring stick of success or failure by our level of flexibility or physical strength or the ability or inability to perform some posture. Can I bind my hands? Can I touch my toes? Can I stand on my hands? Ultimately, those things have nothing to do with yoga. This is a preliminary understanding of yoga that you look and you think it's just about making a shape. If it were that, the greatest yogis would be the circus performers, Cirque du Soleil. They could do any of this, but is it yoga? When we equate yoga to the physical abilities of to do something, we miss the point. And generally, it will reach a point where there's frustration. It's easy to be inspired when we're making progress. I'm becoming more flexible, I'm becoming stronger, and we'll hit a plateau where that progress doesn't keep happening. There's a plateau. And most of people's lives in yoga will be on the plateau. So it's not constantly going to be increasing. At some point, as the body ages, even if you're doing yoga, there's a diminishing thing that starts to happen because all of us will die one day, right? So there's this diminishing element that sometimes the yoga is just slowing down the rusting process that aging brings to us. So the practice is not always about progress. Sometimes it's about maintenance, about maintaining and keeping a strong physical body. Now, I have taught this yoga to people in wheelchairs. I've taught people that are blind. I've taught people that are deaf. I've taught people missing limbs. I've taught people with severe arthritis that their joints wouldn't move. I watched my teacher work with a quadriplegic boy. He could only move his head, yeah, but still he could do yoga. So the key is to figuring out or not looking at what we cannot do, but focusing on what we do have the ability to do and build upon that, if that makes sense. So anything in life that is of value is going to take some effort. Anything. If you want to be a violinist, you can't just put the violin under your pillow at night and think that you're going to become a violinist. You have to work very hard and be diligent and practice and practice and practice, and it's not easy. If you want to be a successful business person, you're probably going to have to work really hard, especially if you didn't just inherit some business. You talk to business people, and many of them, they weren't even successful the first time, had many failures, and they came back, and eventually they're successful because there's a determination. So yes, and this is a paradox, Stefania. It's a bit of a paradoxical thing in yoga. All of the physical stuff we do has the ultimate goal to understand that we're not the physical stuff.
Yes.
And if we relate that to currency, at some point we have to look and go, what amount will make you happy?
Exactly.
How many Bitcoin? How many dollars? How many things do you need? Do you need one car? Do you need 3 cars? Do you need 20 cars? Do you need 5 mansions? And so this is true with yoga also. So I'm going to equate the two things. Let's talk about yoga postures like currency, like money. In the beginning of yoga practice, we do yoga and we start achieving a posture. We can do this thing. We can stand on our hands. We can bind our hands. We can put a leg here. We put that in an asana bank account. And we keep piling those asanas into a bank account, and we look in there and we're like, whoa, cool. I've got all these yoga postures, but that person has more. That person has more yoga postures than me. I need what they have. Oh, I need to do that. I need to do that. Oh, but that person has more. They must be happier. I need more. I need more. And we keep going through that. The Ashtanga system has all these sequences, and they become very intricate and very difficult physically and in the mind. I got through all of them by 1977. It's hundreds of postures, right? But the day I got through them, you start questioning, well, now what? I got all these postures. So if we equate that to money, if having more money was the thing that made us happy and enlightened, the richest people would be the happiest. And you start looking at the world, and that's not true. And many times, the happy people that have money, honestly, they were probably just happy people anyway. Now, we need enough in life so that we're not struggling constantly to pay our rent and to get food, etc. But if you look in society, we're told, and it's presented to us, that the more things you have, you're going to be happier. You need a better car. You need, okay, what thread count sheets do you need? I need 5,000 thread count sheets. No, I need a bigger house. But you see people, once they get all that, they become a little unhappy because they realize, well, that stuff didn't make me happy, but I have it all. I can have more cars, and there's some material comfort, but joy and personal freedom and peace in the heart comes from an attitude. So maybe you could ask yourself, well, how many asanas do I need? When will I say, now I'm happy, I have enough? Is it the day you can stand on your hands? Then you realize, well, that's just standing on my hands.
Let's do
How, how many Bitcoins do I need that will make me happy? How much money what's the number that says, that's my goal, that's my happiness, I've discovered that the people in life that are the happiest are the ones that don't need a lot. And even in yoga, the day we're satisfied with just getting on the mat and doing what we can do is a day of freedom. And we gain a little sense of humor about it. So I guess that's a question that we can all ask. What is an amount of money that will be, that's all I need? Do we just want to be able to pay our rent and have food, or this and that? And I'm talking in circles, but you get the point.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and I think it doesn't really just apply to people in crypto. It applies to anybody that is working in financial markets, or any kind of founders. They are driven by their greed to achieve more and more and more. We are talking about money, right? If you have got so much money but so much stress and no time, no freedom to actually stay with the people that you love, then it's not really a good life. So I think there is a fantastic parallel actually here with the yoga practice that I didn't actually thought about. It's great that you brought it up, because it really matters.
There's an idea also sometimes in yoga that people say, chill out, man, just go with the flow.
Yes.
Yeah, it's yoga, man. And you know that I recently wrote a book, my memoir, called Only Dead Fish Go with the Flow. So yoga doesn't mean we don't make extraordinary effort. Yoga means we try really hard, but then we detach from the result of our effort because we know we did everything we can. And a salmon cannot say just go with the flow, has to swim upstream. So whether it's crypto or yoga or whatever, yes, there's some adversity in anything you want to achieve something. You need to make an endeavor to do so. But if we place our self-worth only upon the things we can do, or the things we have, or the things we want, we're setting up for some problems.
Yeah. The other things that I want to touch is something that is kind of like really important when it comes to Bitcoin, is this ability to be focused. So many Bitcoiners talk about the laser focus eye. You need to be laser focused, concentrated, right? You don't want to waste time with other cryptocurrency, meme coin, and all of that eventually is going to go to zero. Not all of it is going, but it's kind of like, I like to think about the other cryptocurrency like any company listed on the stock market. They issue their own shares, their own coin, and what you are buying. When you buy the coin, you buy into the company, into the management team able to execute. But there is also no regulation for these projects, so it's not up to now properly. So it's kind of more like a Wild West. But coming back to Bitcoin, which for myself and for many watching is really the apex asset. You need to be laser focused, and I think this is like a very important similarity again to Ashtanga, because your breath, that's where I want to get, is really what get you focused, and it's a very important aspect of the practice. So I really would like you to share all your wisdom about the importance of the breath and the role that it plays in yoga, especially in Ashtanga.
Let's just talk about being laser focused for a moment.
Yes.
Because when you hear that term, it also almost means you're like this. Yeah. It's like you're just, right? But laser focus can also be this. It doesn't have to be that the body is tense and there's nothing else. There's something in yoga, in Ashtanga, we call drishti. It's a point of gaze. And the way that this works is I can look out there and there's all stuff around me, but it doesn't disturb my mind. If we apply it properly, drishti means that we can become like the eye of a hurricane. there can be chaos and madness around us, and we're like this. You have to remain calm. I don't know, maybe it's just me. When I hear laser focus, almost sounds like there's this intensity, like you have almost like it's stiff. Laser focus can be, watch someone doing Tai Chi. They're really focused on what they're doing, but it's not with tension.
Yes.
It's with attention, meaning that you can flow and be rhythm. I like to surf. And in surfing, you have to be focused and aware of the waves and the rhythm of the ocean and the wind and the direction. And if a wave is giant and it's coming at you, you have to be calm. The moment you become stiff like this, you fall. You have to be relaxed and understand how to move with it. So if you imagine this wave is the intensity of life coming at us, we have to learn to surf it, without becoming too focused in such a way that you lose perspective. You can be focused on the thing you're doing, but being aware of everything around you. Because let's say you have a family, but you're just laser focused on crypto, but your kids don't have food, they're not going to school, you have no relationships, everything's gone, but I'm laser focused.
It looks like crypto. No. Yeah,
So I'm just saying that whatever it is, it's like focus means you've got to be focused, but the big picture. So you might be laser focused on Bitcoin or whatever it is, but don't lose focus on everything else. It means there's an intention. If we tip too far, like someone that's laser focused on their yoga, but their relationships are falling apart, they can't focus on anything else, it's an imbalance. So we want to find the word yoga, the word hatha yoga. It's a Sanskrit word, hatha. Hatha means sun and moon. Yoga means to unite, to yoke together. So yoga can also be thought of as the alignment of opposites. And so too intense is not good, not focused enough. So you want to find out, what does that laser focus mean? You're aware of other things and can function. Otherwise, we become dysfunctional, right? Whether it's yoga or the business person that, yes, they built a business, but then, like you were saying, you look back in your life, you did it. You built this business. I have all this money and all these things, but wow, my relationships have failed and my kids hate me and everything else. So how can we find the rhythm? The thing we do is a tool to support other things. So in the yoga, an asset of yoga is a calm mind, using the time on the mat as a microcosm for life. How do I deal with the postures I don't like? How do I deal with the ones I like? Do I get frustrated when I can't do something? We try to remain focused while we're doing it, but calm, almost as though we're observing someone else. If we can learn to do this and focus with the breath, as you mentioned, we can talk a little bit more about that next. But if we have this handle that we make this endeavor, but it's with a calmness. Otherwise, imagine that someone loves you and they want to be, and they're just like, I love you. It becomes, right? It's better to demonstrate the love. And so I don't know if there's an exact correlation, but I think there is. There's a way to be laser focused, but not to the exclusion of everything else.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an important point, because you want to have that freedom to also analyze the industry, look what's happening around you, see the pitfall and take action to these things, because the world is evolving, markets are evolving, so you need to be responsive. And also there is also, a wisdom in being responsive, because you're not reacting, but you want to respond, which has got different intent and different things. And maybe that could also bring us back to the breath, because the breath is actually this tool that is so important in yoga. Is also, even when you're making a decision, they say take a big breath, right?
That basic concept is the fulcrum of yoga. There's a saying in yoga, the mind is more difficult to control than the wind. However, if we can control our breath, we can control our mind. So if we apply that to life, if two kids are fighting, their breath is harsh. If someone's frightened, they tend to hold their breath. If a performer or an athlete is nervous before an event, it's short and rapid. Without knowing anything about yoga, what might we say to these people? And you mentioned it a moment ago. Wow, you kids, stop fighting, calm down, just take a few deep breaths. Somehow we know in our DNA that if we control the breath, it has an immediate, tangible, calming effect on the mind. So let's say we're stressed. You have to make a big decision on something. Or you just had a big fight with your partner or something bad happened and the phone rings. Take a couple of breaths before you answer.
Or even before you click the button to buy something or to sell it. That's the same thing.
You have to remain calm and avoid the emotional roller coaster. There's also this idea in yoga. They say the senses are like 5 raging horses. Okay? The 5 senses are like horses. And they're pulling a chariot. Okay? A chariot like a cart. So the cart is our body. The 5 senses are the horses. The reins on the horses is our mind. And the self, we're sitting in the cart driving. So we, as the driver, have to take control of the reins with our mind to control the senses. If we just allow the senses to do whatever they want, they'll start running and we pull us off a cliff or something, right? We're sensual beings. We have senses. It doesn't mean you become some robotic person with no emotion, but we learn to control them and observe them. So even in these critical moments of decision, we need to understand that, is it just an emotional thing that I'm freaking out, or you take that breath for a moment, grab hold of the mind and the senses and make the decision, yeah? And at least you've had control of the decision rather than just being pulled here and there by, I want this, I want that, I want to feel this, I want to experience that, I want to, yeah? Then you can drive where you want to go.
Definitely. And I think it's like really that moment that sometimes is so difficult to make time for, even that second, right? People, especially when we talk about investment trading, and people, they just go with, the guts sometimes, which sometimes is good, sometimes is not. But it's very, 100% transparency and information about what's happening in the market, right? You cannot. And sometimes, you are reacting too quick when you shouldn't. And I know many people has been buying when the market is at the top because all the media are talking about Bitcoin over 100,000 and meme coins going to the moon, and you have FOMO, you don't want to lose it, so you kind of buy, and then obviously this was the top, and then it goes down, and then you sell at the bottom. That's like the worst things that you can do in crypto, is buy when everybody's screaming is great, and then selling when is everybody saying is shit. So that's the things you don't want to do.
Limited to crypto. I think that's any stock trader or anything, right?
Yeah.
There's always a hype around something, and it creates those bubbles, that everybody's got to do it. And I don't know if it was Warren Buffett or one of these people that they said, when everyone else is saying, buy is when I sell, and when everybody else is screaming sell is when I buy stuff. Right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like, you have to remain calm again in those critical moments. As a surfer, when it's the most critical, you have to be the most calm. You have to be really relaxed. And then you still might not make the right decision, but you're more likely to make a decision that's healthier if you're doing it with a calm mind than if you're just in this moment of intense emotion, whether it's, let's say you just had a big fight with your partner or something.
Yeah, don't say anything.
Before you make some just big decision and stomp out and want a divorce, you might just be like, well, did it really matter so much that I didn't put the toilet seat down? Or I'll remember next time to put the toilet seat down, and be calm and try to see the big picture, yeah, beyond that intensity of the moment. And I mean, I am not a big investor or anything. I have small amounts I've done here and there, but I've always looked at it like this, and I don't know if this is a healthy thing or not. I always imagine any money I'm going to put into a stock or something, I have to imagine that, how would I feel if I lost all of that? And so I just am going to put money or something there that really, it's not going to ruin my life if I lose it all. You would put it there and be like, if it crapped out, how would I deal with that? And if you, whoa, okay, well, then put it in something that's not so volatile. And if you're okay with being like, yeah, if it all just went down, I'd still be all right, then, because you don't want to put it in there and it's have that selective idea that it's just going to go up and it's going to go up and it's going to go up. And I've seen it with a lot of things.
I think that's a great insight, especially from somebody that is not a top trader. What exactly they say, right? Only invest what you can lose, and also don't put all your eggs in one basket, but have a diversified portfolio. So you just said that. Going back to the breath, for me, I mean, it was really like when I discovered Ashtanga, which is which is, as we said, a very specific type of yoga, but also is where the breath is more, I don't want to say is more relevant, but is more apparent, right? Because you have got these quite strong ujjayi breath that it's so breath that makes sound, that you keep coming back to it, and it really becomes your guidance through the practice. So when your minds wander, then you go back to the breath, and it's kind of like keep pulling you back. And that I think is really, like, for me, that's why I think Ashtanga is great. And it's such a shame that sometimes, you look outside and there are all these different type of different yoga sculpt, yoga, vinyasa and all of that, which is great because you want yoga to kind of evolve, and obviously that is kind of result. You know that better than me because you were one of the early people to actually bring yoga to the West. But in a way, it's kind of diluting the essence of what yoga really is as a philosophy of mind. And I think Ashtanga is so great just because encapsulate all of it. So I would say anybody that is interested in yoga really should practice Ashtanga with modification within your own range, and everything is not all about the asana, but it's about the breath. I don't know, correct me if I'm missing something, but I really want to share this because I think it's really important.
Well, Stefania, I love your enthusiasm, and I feel that you bring that to anything you do. I think if you're ordering a coffee, you're going to be like, woo! I think you just have that beautiful, infectious, enthusiasm for life. But I don't say that everybody should do Ashtanga. I'm not that guy. I'm not like the Ashtanga evangelist. I just say, I do this stuff. I like it. If you want to do it, I'll show you how to do it. But I think that people get benefit from all styles of yoga. It doesn't have to be Ashtanga. Ultimately, all yoga systems have the same goal, to help us calm our mind and our nervous system and to gain some more understanding of ourself. Whether it's Iyengar yoga or this yoga or the other yoga. I mean, there's goat yoga, there's beer yoga, there's nude yoga, there's all kind of yoga, yeah? I don't have a judgment about those yogas. If someone asks me about another yoga, I'll say, well, after the person did the yoga, did they feel better? Are they calmer? Were they more patient with people around them? Great, then I'm a fan. So rather than thinking of the word before yoga, just look at the word yoga. So the world might even be a better place if we took away the word just before it. And you'd look at this person and go, wow, I do yoga. Oh, really? I do yoga. It's just yoga, right? It's okay. And it's a common thing to get very excited about a thing we're doing and think everybody else should do it but I've learned over, the decades that I just stand behind what I believe in, but I respect people that have other opinions and let them do their thing. And in general, people are going to find benefit from yoga. And it doesn't matter what kind. And it's also that maybe Ashtanga was just 3 stepping stones on your journey of life and yoga. Maybe those 3 steps took you to another thing and another thing. Maybe you come back to it, maybe you don't. But it had value in those moments, yeah?
Yeah.
So Ashtanga is breath-centric. And not all systems are. And of course, today there's, because of social media, the people with the most followers can do the most stuff, and it's very dynamic and exciting. It's okay if it gets people interested in yoga, but the thing that's going to keep them doing it is the way they feel. If we make it breath-centric, there's less likelihood of becoming injured, a greater likelihood of having more energy in your body, and having a calmer mind. So we come back to the idea of breath as the focus, and anytime our breath becomes erratic or out of line, it's good to take a moment and just take a few breaths, even if you don't know any specialized breathing.
Yeah, I mean, you just said something because of all of your experience and wisdom, and it's true. I just get very passionate about Ashtanga because maybe for me in my life, I think that kind of going back to the breath and having this kind of fiery breath to kind of guide me is important. But some people like maybe yoga nidra. What's wrong with that? And I think what is really important, that I remember you mentioning in our Teacher training was about breathe. So it doesn't really matter if sometimes you need to open your mouth, which you shouldn't, because nowadays there are all these many breathing expert, they say don't breathe with your mouth, use tapes when you sleep, and it's kind of like it's really bad to breathe from the mouth, but you definitely don't want to not breathe.
That's true. Better to breathe with your mouth than not breathe.
Never compromise your breath. So I think that's another very important thing. Now, I've got a question which I think is very dear to my community, and is centered around resilience. Because if I'm coming back to Bitcoin is like yoga is. Maybe not, maybe even it could be a 30-year journey, but it's definitely not a year journey, a 30 days or 6 months. Is a long journey because the assets is not there it's not fully mature. We just got institutions adopting Bitcoin last year. We saw the ETFs, and then the government in general and regulation, they're becoming more supportive of this nascent industry, right? So you kind of get into it and think that you are going to be a millionaire tomorrow. You kind of need to wait, and while you're waiting, we mentioned about being some volatile times. There are bull market, there are bear market, and you need to be able to hold and be resilient. So you are a master of resilience. How people develop resilience?
So coming back to the concepts we spoke about earlier, repetition is how we improve at anything, right? By doing the thing. If I want to become a better bicycle rider, I've got to get on a bicycle and ride it, right? So resilience means that we're doing something over and over, and even if something's difficult, we understand that the other side of that, there's going to be something that's better. I'll give an example. In Austin, Texas, where I live, I'm currently on Maui. My wife and I have a place on Maui and in Austin, Texas. In Austin, there's a natural spring called Barton Springs, and it's a beautiful setting in a park, and you can swim there. But the water is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in centigrade, but it's year-round, it's that temperature. So it can feel great in the summer when it's very hot, but in the winters it feels cold. There's a woman, and this won't be the exact numbers, but it gives the essence of the story. She's been swimming in that spring every day for like 40 years. The only day she took off is when she gave birth to her kids. And she gets up in the wee hours, it's still dark outside, and she'll go and swim in there before it's even open. A local newspaper once was interviewing her, and they said, "This is fascinating. Wow, that's great. I mean, how do you do this? That's phenomenal." And she goes, "Oh, you know what? I hate cold water." They said, "What? But you swim every day?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I hate it, especially in the winter. I'm sitting in the car, it's dark outside, I have my fuzzy robe on with my bathing suit on it, and I'm sitting in the car thinking, this is madness, what am I doing? This is terrible, I should just be at home in bed." "Well, why do you do it?" And she goes, "Well, because I know that every time when I come out of that water, I feel so alive." So if we allow the thing that's going to be difficult, we become too discouraged because we understand there's going to be some difficulty. We lose the potential magic and benefit that's on the other side. So the thing that keeps us coming back is, it's not easy. Like I'll say that I've never had a yoga practice I regretted, but there's days I didn't practice, I think, oh, I probably would have felt better had I done it. Yeah. And so if we understand that some amount of discipline and regular consistency gives us the foundation that will build that resilience, yeah. And that comes from practice. And I guess in crypto or whatever, it's only going to become from experience. And you're going to have to maybe make some mistakes, right? But you've got to be prepared to make those mistakes. And it's plural. We all make mistakes, right? You did this trade. It was bad. I lost money. But you got to be calm and maybe not just throw it all away and then go, okay, I learned from that. And so I assume that the people like yourself or those that are advising others have been through those, right? Yeah. It's not like somebody that's successful just was successful every time they do it. That's not reality. But you learn, you become a little better at learning to take the right step at the right time and to be calm when something goes wrong and understand it'll come back. Or even if it doesn't, well, I'll cut my losses, because if I'm just going to keep holding on because I lost this much and I think, well, I'm just going to keep it forever, and then it's all gone. Well, it was better if you lost 30% rather than 100%. And so that resilience comes from experience and repetition, but we've got to be prepared to not be successful every time.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I've been in the space for like what in the crypto space for over 10 years, and I have to say it does come from experience, and I think education here as well is very important because it's such a like a new space. You always need to kind of stay on the top of what's happening. And also like it's such a like a new industry that you have to try stuff. And I remember at the time that when DeFi, which is decentralized finance, was popular, I was actually doing some stuff in DeFi. I was lending stablecoin. I was doing things, and I don't say that I make money. I actually lost money as well. I bought into coins that didn't go very well at the end, but then you kind of learn, right? And it's quite interesting that also when I started reading the Bitcoin white paper, and then I went all around the world in, DeFi, NFTs, and all the crypto funky, trendy stuff. And then you see them all, very hype, the metaverse. I don't know if you remember when Nike said it was going to go in the metaverse. Everybody was talking about the metaverse, and they were building all this game in the cloud, but nobody was playing the game, right? That was the problem. And so anyway, and then you kind of learn that actually, yes, the industry is changing, but really the assets that as keep accumulating value is Bitcoin. So you kind of come back. It's very interesting. And I think, keep learning, keep repetition, be kind with yourself if you make mistakes, put yourself out there as well. Even like us as a yoga teacher, sometimes it's difficult to teach. You might be in front of people that have got disability or a crowd that you don't like, or you might have to teach something that you're not comfortable with. You have to teach handstand and I cannot do it properly, so you cannot show it. But you need to put yourself out there, because if you don't do it, you're never going to learn. Yeah, I think it's really important when you want to advise or you actually want to be in the space properly, you actually need to try. And I think that's really important with yoga. You can't really teach a posture if you're never going to try to do it. At the end, it's also about directionality. And directionality, I think in yoga, it comes down. There was something that I was exploring, like directionality as an extension of consciousness, or like a purpose in your practice. And it goes, extend your body, like in downward facing dog. There is a directionality that goes beyond your hips. Anyway, we are getting very technical here, but you know what I mean. So it's good to put yourself out there anyway.
So let's just talk about making mistakes for a moment.
Yeah.
Or falling even.
Yes, great.
Anything in life that requires balance requires falling. The greatest ballet dancers, greatest gymnasts, they fall. Simone Biles falls, right? Whatever. Eventually you're going to fall. Even if the day you're able to do a handstand, one day you're also going to fall. So learning to fall is important. And also understanding that mistakes are going to happen. And it's plural. And there's this fun story about how people learn. And you've maybe heard me say it in workshops before. So let's say there's a little fire here. And you tell me, David, don't touch that fire. If you do, it'll burn you and hurt your hand. I say, okay, that's how I learn. That's how some people learn. They just hear something one time, they got the message. There's another person. Here's the fire. You say, David, don't touch it, it'll burn you. I say, I don't believe you. I see someone else walk by and they touch the fire and they get burned. And I go, wow, fire burns, I'm not going to touch it. I had to hear it, I had to see it, I got the message. Oh, but there's another person. You see the fire, it'll burn you. I don't believe you. One of you, somebody else walks by, touches, they get burned. I say, wow, that looks like it really hurt them. Certainly it wouldn't hurt me. I touched the fire. It burns. I got the message. I had to hear it, I had to see it, I had to do it. I got the message. Then there's the fourth person, the determined one. You see the fire, it'll burn you. Oh, I don't believe you. Someone else gets burned. I go, it looks like it really hurt them. It certainly wouldn't hurt me. I put my hand in. Ow, that really hurt. Well, that's silly. You can't put your hand in the fire. Maybe you have to put your elbow in the fire. Maybe your head. Maybe a foot. Maybe I turn around 3 times. And I keep trying all different kind of things. I'm going from different sides of the fire, different times of the day of the fire. I finally have some elaborate thing above the fire. I'm lowering myself in. I do 5,000 different things. And finally, I'm just this smoldering little guy, and I go, okay, fire burns. Every one of us has a little bit of each of those four people within us. Some people get a message immediately and they learn quickly. Others make multiple mistakes until they finally get it. It's okay, whichever of those people we are, as long as in the end we learn. So we're talking about making mistakes. If it's in crypto or something, I think that might be an important thing to understand, whether it's yoga or crypto or anything, that maybe start out with smaller sums or smaller amounts that you can play with, right? It's like you're playing a game. It's like a pilot. They don't learn to drive a jet in a jet. They're in a simulator. So if it crashes, nobody died, right? So at first, maybe you've just got a little bit of Bitcoin and you're trading these little bits and you're making your mistakes and you're losing a few dollars rather than your house, right? So understand that, yeah, you're going to make mistakes. Don't assume that you're not. Assume that you are and be prepared for that. And as you said before, rather than get all bummed out about it, understand we all make mistakes. Now, you've probably heard of Michael Jordan, famous basketball player in America.
Yeah.
He's one of the greatest basketball players of all time. There was a Nike commercial talking about Nike.
Yeah.
I think it was Nike, yeah. And on the commercial, he just sits there and he says, I missed X number 100 of three-point shots. I missed this many free throws. He just talks about all the shots he missed because people only remember the ones he made. He just sits there and talks about all the ones he wasn't successful at. And that's important to hear. You see successful people, you just think everything they did was successful. It's important to talk about all the things that weren't successful. Like you were just saying, oh, I did this and that investment went bad and that investment went bad. People need to understand, whether it's crypto or whatever, the mistakes are going to happen. And if you're not prepared for that, then maybe don't do it, right? And yoga, you get in there, you do it. And I'd say gain a little sense of humor about it. And if you teach people to feel their body, they're not going to get hurt. So maybe if you teach people to understand their crypto strategy or whatever, they're not going to get hurt.
Yeah, I think definitely education and learning is important, but it's exactly what you said. And what many people actually expert in the space, they also say, don't start big. Right? Start with a small amount. And also something else that we always say in crypto, and is really, I think is really important. If you want to get into the space, don't buy all in one day, right? You have got 100,000, bam, I buy Bitcoin today. Bitcoin is volatile, right? So you kind of never find the right time to buy because you don't know, maybe tomorrow crashes 20% and you say, oh God, I know people that actually, they were really upset because then it just went down quite a lot for different reasons they couldn't control. What you do, like dollar cost averaging, so every month, every week, you set up a little bit and you keep monitoring and then that also develops the way that your knowledge and also your attitude, right? How much are you willing to risk? Do you want to stop now because something else has changed in your life? And I think you just exactly said the same things. And it's so funny, like how life wisdom and that obviously I do think the yoga is an important part of having understanding the meaning of life, and training your body and mind can really help beyond the mat. I think that's really important. Now, David, another things that I want really to hear what you have to say is about community and isolation in a way. So the crypto industry is a very particular industry. And I think, in a way, even the general tech space. So people don't really go out a lot. They live in the computer, they live in their phone, they live on their screen. And it can be really isolating for many people building in crypto, for many traders, for many investors. And I think generally, this is kind of like the trend, but community is important. So what we do in the Bitcoin space, there are a few important events like the Bitcoin event in the US. They usually they've been doing it. They did Miami, not Austin. They did actually, the latest one was Las Vegas, Nashville. So there is this big event, right? Where we all get together. Then there are a few others in Europe, and this is where everybody gets together and they network and also, it's also an opportunity to kind of like drink a lot and stuff like this, which I don't drink, so it's not really the best way to develop a relationship at the stage where we are. So I kind of would like to, to hear what you have to say about isolation, the importance of community, which is very important in yoga as well, and maybe isolation that then leads to this strange behavior of drinking and networking on the hype and all of that. Because you have got all the people that maybe you just met on Twitter, right? You have done Twitter spaces on, but you never seen them. And then in just one day, you need to do everything. You need to network with everybody, but really, you're not really developing proper relationships. And maybe, just broadly talk about community.
Well, one thing about yoga and, old school yoga, there was no social media. There was nothing like that. Yoga meant you went to a yoga class, and that became the community. You met people in yoga class, you hung out together, you went to meals together. That was one of the big attractions to Ashtanga is people were fun. We went to the beach together, we had meals together, we hung out together, and it was just a natural extension of what we were doing. We were passionate about this practice, but we also had all these other lives together, yeah? And so there is a risk of a kind of tunnel vision that you're talking about. So even community, if you think, well, community only means other crypto people. It narrows our life view. And it's okay if that's your focus, you want to really be in it. But I used to run these yoga retreats in Costa Rica. So you were at this intensive teacher training. I've done those things in like Costa Rica in a beautiful setting in the jungle and hikes through the jungle, and there's wildlife and beaches. And we would do yoga, and then we're on a hike or at dinner, and people wanted to talk about yoga. And I said, you cannot use the Y word at dinner. You can't use the word yoga. There has to be something else we can talk about. Tell me about your family. What foods do you like? Do you have any pets? Where do you live? I wanted people to get out of the idea that everything just had to be about yoga. Yoga is a part of the thing, but let it enhance everything else you do. So I would say about community, yeah, you've got this connection with crypto, but find out something else about each other. What are your other interests? Do you like to hike? Do you like Italian food? Do you like to cook? Do you like cats or dogs? And that will create a community where there's a greater depth beyond just the surface of this one thing. And that's true in all relationships, even in a loving relationship, whatever. Initially, there might be some strong physical attraction. It's all this physical. That's great, but you need to have more interests, yeah? And diverse interests. That it's not all just the same thing. You want a little bit of difference. So it's fascinating to sit and talk to people and get to know them and find out other stuff too. I think that will foster deeper relationships and a more holistic community. And I know it's that way in yoga too. That's why I said, even in yoga, sometimes I'd get people to say, well, talk to me about something else.
Yeah.
What else? And how does the yoga then apply within those other things rather than it's got to be compartmentalized?
I think it's such a really an important point even. So there is these things about networking that obviously in crypto is all about partnership, is all, I need to meet all the investors because I need to fund my project. So there is this like people go to those events with these, they are so stressed, they need to meet so many people. And I think I was reflecting on it like a couple of weeks ago. A client asks you, oh, who are we going to meet? And then you need to build a list of 300 people for them to meet. But then when you go back from the event, there is no follow-up. People don't even remember who you are. So why you need to go to an event? I'm just talking generally about networking. It's not really about how long is your list. It's actually about how many people you manage to build a relationship that when you ring them up, they actually pick up the phone and say, hi, Steffi, hi, David, how are you doing?
Yeah. And there's something to be said, like when those events, and it's common, I think, with any kind of convention where people are also partying and stuff, but it says something that you feel like you have to do that.
Yes.
So your relationship is on an intoxicated level.
Yes.
It's not a level that's not skewed by alcohol or whatever, right? It's something different. If your relationship is all only based on when you're partying, what kind of relationship is it, right? So I'm not saying that those things are bad, and maybe it's part of what happens, but as you said, is there going to be a follow through? Was it really a relationship, or is it just an excuse to have a big release because everything else is so stressful? And it's like the person that just waits until Friday night, and you see it in London, right?
Yeah.
Overdo it, where they're just on the streets and throwing up, and because there's that time where you just party, and then like or being in Italy, maybe it happens there too, but generally I didn't see that because people drink wine at lunch, but it's not a thing, right? They just have a little wine, a little this is okay. It's not that on Friday night you go out and just go crazy. So if those events are just about a big blow off all your steam, and it's not really networking in the same way. You might have met some people and maybe it works for a few, causes problems.
Yeah, and I really think that actually, let's not really say good people, but let's call it proper people. They are not going to have a good image if they see you in a state that is not a proper state. So if we want to use the adjective proper. So.
Maybe it would be interesting in those big events if there was just like a side sub event where it was like the no alcohol zone or whatever. It was really just a place where there's going to be a meal and you sit down and you talk to people. That's not just the intensity of, and it's that thing before where you're talking about laser focus, but maybe it needs to be a little chill, right? Where you just can sit in another little room and there's 10 tables in there, whatever, where there's small gatherings of people where you just sit and have a meal and it's not just the intensity of.
Yeah, it is true. And I think that there are dinners, but it's very much transaction based. So maybe they are organized by the event and the people sponsoring are the one they choose who is going to attend. And it's all about transaction. I'm going to meet as many as... So it's not really relaxed. And all the other events are kind of alcohol based. So there is that tense element. And I'm hoping that I can persuade some people to do some yoga events. So there will be something interesting, maybe a different way.
Maybe we'll bring a bit of yoga to one of these big events, and have a bit of yoga in there.
Exactly, a bit of yoga. David, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And I think you share with us some amazing wisdom that it's not just about yoga. It's much more than yoga, but definitely yoga is a tool that can help you to go through life, and is something that I think will be very, very beneficial for everybody to get into. But we are free people, and everybody needs to choose their own entry point.
You know what? It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Stefania. Your energy is infectious, and I'm happy to be here. It's been an honor, and hopefully your listeners will enjoy the moments. I certainly enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you. Please remember that all the content on the show is for informational purposes only and not intended as financial advice. Any opinions expressed by me or my guests are ours alone, and you should not act solely on the back of them. As always, do your own research, level up your skills, and be accountable for your own decisions.